Hello my friends, how are you doing today? I am your Ramandeep Singh and back again with another video on listening. I hope you are enjoying my all videos, and this video is particularly to help you in developing your skill of handling MCQs in listening module, especially when the options are really long. Let's start this test, which is test number 4 of Cambridge Book 11, and we be dealing with from question number 21 till 30. Firstly, we will be listening to the conversation and handling two questions together. So you must be sure about this type of question, that here the two correct answers matter rather than the order. The answers can be in any order. For example, if the two correct answers are A and B, you can put A in front of 21 and B in front of 22, or vice versa. It won't affect your score, but the two correct answers has to be there. However, if you put A in front of 21 and C in front of 22, that means one answer is wrong, since we have considered that A and B are two correct answer. In that case, you will get only 1 mark. So here the order will not matter, but you have to come up with the two correct answers. So before I start today's video, I request you to please subscribe my channel, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart to help me to grow to 30,000 now. I request you to keep a pencil or a pen handy, and by the end of this video, please share your score, and in the comment box I would love to see how much you scored in these questions. Let's start today's video, and let me help you in handling these multiple choice questions now. Before that, as I said, that it is very important that you understand very well what the information is given to you in the time allotted to read ahead, and highlight all the keywords, and differentiate how the A to E options are different from each other, so that when you be listening and during that real time, you could far more conveniently choose the correct answer. So this question is, it says, which two characteristics were shared by the subjects of Joanna's psychology study? Here, subject is something really important to understand. These subjects are not like the science and Hindi and mathematics. It is actually whenever a survey is conducted or an experiment or research is conducted, those who take part in that, they are actually the subject. So Joanna's psychology study, and those who participated in that, they discussed two characteristics. The 5 options are: they had all won prizes for their music. Number 2, they had all made music recordings. 3, they were all under 27-year-old. They had all toured internationally. That means they have traveled internationally. Finally, they all have a string instrument, and I hope you understand string instrument. There are like guitar, sitar, those instruments that make sound with strings. So let's go ahead and play the audio of this particular question, and let's see what two options going to be the correct options. Make sure she may talk about all the different options, but the options that would not be answered, that would be half-hearted, or as soon as she will talk about that particular option, then she will use a negative or a contrasting word, for example, but. However, that will negate that option. So this is something really very important to be taken care of while listening. Let's begin the audio of this particular question.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi Joanna, good to meet you. Now, before we discuss your new research project, I'd like to hear something about the psychology study you did last year for your master's degree. So, how did you choose your subjects for that?
Well, I had 6 subjects, all professional musicians and all female. 3 were violinists, and there was also a cello player and a pianist and a flute player. They were all very highly regarded in the music world, and they'd done quite extensive tours in different continents, and quite a few had won prizes and competitions as well.
And they were quite young, weren't they?
Yes, between 25 and 29. The mean was 27.8. I wasn't specifically looking for artists who'd produced recordings, but this is something that's just taken for granted these days, and they all had.
Right.
So since the other guy has started speaking, that means Joanna's part is over. So what are the two correct options are with you? If we start with the very first option, they had all won prizes for the music. This cannot be the correct answer because she used quite a few. So few of them were having, not all of them. Then B, they had all made music recording, and yes, she said it's taken granted these days and all of them had it. So B is definitely a correct answer. C, they were all under 27 years old. Yes, this was a tricky part, but she said 27, 29. So if someone is 29, so all cannot be under 27. This is not the correct answer yet again. They had all toured internationally. Perfect. She used different continents. So the two correct answers are B and D. Let's go ahead and handle question number 23 and 24 now. Since I'm not reading ahead all the questions before the start of the recording, since I want to make you understand these things, but in real exam the entire recording will play together, so make sure when you get the time for the section 3 in advance, at that time you highlight all the important keywords of the question as well as the answer options. Question number 23 and 24. What 2 points does Joanna make about her use of telephone interviews? See, so she probably had made telephonic interviews as well. So 2 points about those interviews. One is, it meant rich data could be collected so that she could get more data. It allowed the involvement of top performers. That means she was able to get access to the best performers. It led to a stressful atmosphere at times, something negative. It meant interview times had to be limited. That means in short time. Finally, it caused some technical problem. Once again, negative thing to talk about. Let's go ahead and start recording of these two particular questions.
Now, you collected your data through telephone interviews, didn't you?
Yes. I realised if I was going to interview leading musicians, it'd only be possible over the phone because they're so busy. I recorded them using a telephone recording adapter. I'd been worried about the quality, but it worked out all right. I managed at least a 30-minute interview with each subject, sometimes longer.
Did doing it on the phone make it more stressful?
I'd thought it might. It was all quite informal though, and in fact they seemed very keen to talk. And I don't think using the phone meant I got less rich data. Rather the opposite, in fact.
Interesting. And you were looking...
There we go. Should we start with E? Because you say that if it caused some technical problems, no, she was thinking, but it was fine. E is not correct answer. Then it meant interview times had to be limited. No, she said, I spent healthy 30 minutes with each and sometime more than that. So D is not the correct answer. It led to a stressful atmosphere at time. The guy asked, but she said that I thought it would be, but it was not. So C is not the correct answer. So you are left with only two correct options, A and B. B, since she said that I wanted to have access to the leading performers, you must have heard the word, and it was only possible through phone because of their busy schedule. And another one is rich data. She said that it does not mean that I could not get rich data. In fact, the opposite was true. That means she could collect rich data. So the correct answer is A. Moving on to question number 25 and 26. Which two topics did Joanna originally intend to investigate in her research? Actually, what she wanted to investigate. First is a regulation concerning concert dress, audience reaction to the dress of performers, changes in performers' attitude to concert dress, how choice of dress relates to performers' role, link between musical instruments and dress choice. So it's quite difficult, seems like, because Same thing, concert, dress, costume is appearing in all questions, so it gets little tricky to differentiate. However, making sure that you understand all these 5 different options, just keep on listening, keep on eliminating the wrong options, and you will end up only with 2 remaining correct options. Let's go ahead and listen for these questions.
Looking at how performers dress for concert performances.
That's right. My research investigated the way players see their role as a musician and how this is linked to the type of clothing they decide to wear. But that focus didn't emerge immediately. When I started, I was more interested in trying to investigate the impact of what was worn on those listening, and also whether someone like a violinist might adopt a different style of clothing from, say, someone playing the flute or the trumpet.
It's interesting that the choice of dress is up to the individual, isn't it?
Yes, you'd expect there to be rules about it in orchestras, but that's quite rare.
So, as I said, tricky question. So what are the correct options with you? A is the correct answer. It is actually not correct answer. As she was wrapping up, she said rare, like such regulations are rare. It's not much. B is the correct answer, definitely, because she said reaction of those who are listening, that means who is listening, audience is listening, so C is the correct answer. She started with option D when she said about the relation, and later on she said, but my interest was in understanding this thing, audience, that means the impact on the listeners. And the another correct answer was definitely E, because she in fact gave an example of a violinist who might adopt a different style of clothing form. It justifies the dress and the link between the musical instrument. So B and E are correct answer. Let's go ahead and check out the remaining 4 multiple choice questions. For each question we have to figure out one statement now. Now Joanna concentrated on women performers because why she focused on women? Women are more influenced by fashion. Women dress had led to more controversy. Women code of dress is less strict than men. Let's go ahead.
You only had women performers in your study. Was that because male musicians are less worried about fashion?
I think a lot of the men are very much influenced by fashion, but in social terms, the choices they have are more limited. They'd really upset audiences if they strayed away from quite narrow boundaries.
So, what is your answer? A. Women are more influenced by fashion? No, it is not correct answer, since she said that it's not like, because men are also influenced by fashion, so it's not like only women. That's why she concentrated on women. There was nothing to do with the controversy, so B is definitely not the correct answer. C is certainly the correct answer, because she said that men have very limited choices, and when they try to cross their narrow boundaries, means they try to wear something different, people do not easily accept them. So that's why she focused on women dress code. Moving on, Mike Frost's article suggested that in popular music, women dress is affected by. So Mike Frost is a person who has written an article on this particular topic, and he has written in his article that women dress is affected by what thing? They wish to be taken seriously because they want to be taken seriously, their tendency to copy each other since they copy each other, their reaction to the masculine nature of the music, as the music is more manly, probably that's why they choose their dress accordingly. Let's listen.
Now, popular music has quite different expectations. Did you read Mike Frost's article about the dress of women performers in popular music?
No.
Well, he points out that a lot of female singers and musicians in popular music tend to dress down in performances and wear less feminine clothes, like jeans instead of skirts. And he suggests this is because otherwise they'd just be discounted as trivial.
But you could argue they're just wearing what's practical. I mean, a pop music concert is usually a pretty energetic affair.
Yes, he doesn't make that point, but I think you're probably right.
So, here the answer is a little tricky to follow. However, if you are familiar with this simple word of English, trivial, then it make it far more easier for you to handle, because he simply said that women prefer to wear jeans rather than skirts and all that, because otherwise they would just be discounted as trivial. That means people would not take them seriously. So the correct answer is A, because they want to dress up because they wish to be taken seriously. Let's go ahead and look for another question. So we're left with 2 more questions, and question number 29 is, what did Joanna's subject say about the audience at her performance? Like, it's not her opinion, but the subjects, as she talked about the 6 subjects on which she studied, so those subjects say about the audience at a performance. What they say about the audience: the musician choice of clothing is linked to respect for the audience. The clothing should not distract the audience from the music. That means distract their attention because of just the way they dress up. The audience should make the effort to dress appropriately. Now the audience should make the effort to dress appropriately. I think this should not be the answer straight away, because the fact is that we are talking about the musicians, their dress code, not the dress code of the audience. However, let's go ahead and listen the recording.
I was interested by the effect of the audience at a musical performance when it came to the choice of dress.
The subjects I interviewed felt this was really important. It's all to do with what we understand by performance as a public event. They believed the audience had certain expectations, and it was up to them as performers to fulfill these expectations, to show a kind of esteem.
They weren't afraid of looking as if they'd made an effort to look good.
I think in the past, the audience would have had those expectations of one another too, but that's not really the case now. Not in the UK, anyway.
No.
And I also got interested in what sports...
So C is the correct answer. She definitely talked about this little. However, it is not the correct answer. She said that earlier in past, people had expectation what they wear, like the audience had expectation from each other, like what they wear. But taking the example of UK, she said, however, this is not the case these days, and the answer is definitely A. And for respect, she used the synonym esteem, and she said to show some kind of esteem. So everything goes with the option A, and it is the correct answer. Finally, 30th, according to speaker, musicians could learn from sports scientists about what they can learn from sports scientists: the importance of clothing for physical freedom, like how freely they can move on the stage, the part played by clothing in improving performance, how clothing can improve their musicians' performance, the way clothing may protect against physical injury. So of course, clothing has a part to play to keep them safe and secure while performing.
And I also got interested in what sports scientists are doing too with regard to clothing.
Musicians are quite vulnerable physically, aren't they? Because the movements they carry out are very intensive and repetitive. So I'd imagine some features of sports clothing could safeguard the players from the potentially dangerous effects of this sort of thing.
Yes, but musicians don't really consider it. They avoid clothing that obviously restricts their movements, but that's as far as they go.
Anyway, coming back to...
So I think it was quite straightforward. Getting on to the injuries and protection, safeguard themselves. So everything goes with option C. Though the lady talked about little about how freely they can move, but definitely considering all those statements, C is the appropriate answer to question number 30. So that's the end of today's video. I, Ramandeep Singh, say you goodbye now, and I hope you will learn the strategies and tips that you need to keep in mind while handling such questions in examination. Say you goodbye right now, and I will catch you very shortly with more interesting videos related to IELTS. Till then, I say you goodbye.